ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। मुखं करोति वाचालं भङ्गुं लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिधि नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादि पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So today we are going to have a look at the 7th chapter of the first canto, entitled The Son of Drona Punished. That is the title of the chapter. And this is where actually the occasion for the starting of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is this chapter from where the events or the incidents are beginning to get described. Up to the 6th chapter we found first couple of chapters were all questions and answers between Suta Maharshi and sages at Naimisharanya. Now they are slowly approaching that subject which they were all inquiring about. So the 7th chapter, having 58 shlokas, will speak about how this whole thing began, because this is the chapter where we will see how Parikshit is protected. And we know that as far as our learning of Bhagavatam is concerned, Parikshit for us is the most important person, because he becomes the reason for which Shukadeva Goswami actually spoke the Bhagavatam. So, the beginning of the chapter begins with Shaunaka Rishi's question to Suta Maharshi as to what did Vyasa do after Narada Muni left. Narada Muni, in the previous chapter we saw how Narada Muni describes about his own previous birth, and then he tells Vyasa Maharshi that he is actually very fortunate and he is actually very able to do this narration and he should do it. So, Shaunaka Rishi is asking what Vyasadeva did after Narada Muni left. So, previously also we have discussed this, that what the disciple is doing in presence of his guru is very, very important, no doubt. But actually much more important is what the disciple is doing after the guru has left. So these questions are very pertinent. They are very important for us to know and understand why that question is asked and how it is being answered. So, in a place called Shamya Prasa is the ashrama of Vyasa Maharshi. It is situated on the western bank of Saraswati river, and this place is intimately related with the Vedas, and that is where Vyasa's ashrama is situated. And there Suta Maharshi says Vyasa sat down after doing Achaman. He was going to meditate on planning how to compile the Srimad Bhagavatam. So accordingly, it is said, Suta Maharshi is saying that Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranihite Amale Apashyat Purusham Purnam Mayam Cha Tad Apashrayam. Thus Vyasadeva fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service or Bhakti Yoga without any tinge of materialism, and thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. So, in his meditation, actually, Vyasa Maharshi is seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead along with Maya Devi. This is how Suta Maharshi is explaining. And Yaya Sammohito Jiva Atmanam Trigunatmagam Paropi Manute Nartham Tatkritam Chabhipadyate. He says that due to the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes, is thinking himself as a material product and thus undergoes reactions of material energy. Now, Vyasa Maharshi is obviously above this stage. That is why Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranihite Amale, because he has got absolutely no material discrepancies, he has got absolutely no material impurities, so he is actually able to see Pashyat. No, he was actually able to see Purusham Purnam. Whereas the Sammohito Jiva, when we are in a Mohita condition, we are actually bewildered by Maya, Trigunatmakam, by the three modes of material nature, then we are not able to see. And we are thinking that I am something, I am a product of material nature. And then Suta Maharshi says why Vyasadev compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. Anarthopasamam sakshat bhakti yoga madokshaje lokasya janato vidvams chakre satvata samhitam. Because people do not know that bhakti yoga can take away material sufferings. In order to teach people that bhakti yoga mitigates material sufferings, Vyasa Maharshi wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. That is called, Srimad Bhagavatam is called the Satvata Samhita. Means it is a work or a compilation meant for the Sattvatas, for all people who want to become free from material sufferings. And how does it happen? Yasyam vai sruyamanayam Krishne paramapurushe bhaktir utpadyate pumsa shoka moha bhayapaha. Simply by oral reception, simply by hearing, simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion and fearfulness. Shoka moha bhayapaha. So, bhaktir utpadyade pumsa. When bhakti utpadyade, when bhakti is produced, how? By giving oral reception to Srimad Bhagavatam, Satvata Samhita. By simply giving oral reception to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhaktir Utpadyate, Bhakti will be developed, Bhakti will be born, in our heart. And that will extinguish the three things. What is that? Shoka, lamentation; moha, illusion; bhaya, fearfulness. So, this is what the reason why Vyasa Maharshi compiled Srimad Bhagavatam, in order to teach people that Bhakti Yoga mitigates material sufferings, and simply by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, we will be able to overcome fear, we will be able to overcome illusion, and we will be able to overcome lamentation. And then he goes on to say that Vyasadeva taught this Srimad Bhagavatam to Shukadeva Goswami. So, when Suta Maharshi said this, Shaunaka Rishi will immediately ask, we understand that the Shukabrahma Rishi or Shukadeva Goswami, he was already on the path of self-realization. He was already an Atma Rama. And why would an Atma Rama like Shukadeva Goswami take the trouble to understand or study the Srimad Bhagavatam? And answer to that is one of the very important verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the 10th verse of the 7th chapter of the first canto, where Suta says, Suta uvacha Atma Ramascha munayo nirgrantha apyurukrame kurvantya haitukim bhaktim yitham bhuta guno harihi. Suta Goswami said, all different varieties of Atma Ramas, meaning those who take pleasure in the Atma or the spiritual self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including the liberated souls. Kurvantya haitukim bhaktim yittam bhuta guno harihi. That this Lord Hari has such wonderful qualities, and because of that people will have desire to render unalloyed ahaitukim bhaktim, without any intentions, without any personal intention for personal benefit, people will be feeling automatically that I want to perform devotional service for Krishna. Spontaneous feeling of devotion for Krishna comes because of Krishna's wonderful qualities. So he says, even the Atma Ramascha Munayaha, those who are Atma Ramas, means they don't look elsewhere for happiness. Atma Rama means one who is happy within himself. Means he actually does not require anything else for happiness. But even those people, nirgrantha, they are freed from all bondage, but still they will come and perform devotional service for Krishna because of his wonderful qualities. And this Atmarama verse was explained by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatan Goswami. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke to Sanatan Goswami 64 expositions on this particular shloka, which is called the Atma Rama shloka. So, Srila Prabhupada also quotes this Atma Rama shloka in many, many places, because the Supreme Lord's qualities are such that even if somebody is a Brahman realized person, because Shukadev Goswami was actually a Brahmavadi, he was actually situated in the platform of Brahman and he was completely satisfied in there. But still, the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so attractive that even a self-satisfied person will render devotional service to Krishna. This is actually a very wonderful thing. That this point we will get only from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, these impersonalists, the Vedantists, they will all say that, we are Atma Rama, so we don't engage in anything, We don't need to engage in anything because we simply read the Vedanta and then we find happiness. We simply meditate, we find happiness. We simply chant Om and we find happiness. But here, Suta Maharshi is telling Shaunakadis that even such a person like Shukadeva Goswami, we have already heard about the wonderful qualities of Shukadeva Goswami, right? How he is a complete avadhuta. He is considered to be although much younger to Vyasa Maharshi and his son, Shukadeva Goswami is considered to be superior to his father in spiritual realization. And that person is sitting and hearing and studying the Srimad Bhagavatam. So what does that mean for us? That if Shukadeva Goswami, the best of the transcendentalists, the topmost of the Brahmavadis, gets attracted to the Srimad Bhagavatam, what does that mean? It means that Srimad Bhagavatam is relishable even for the topmost transcendentalist. So, and he continues. He says that Shukadeva Goswami is transcendently powerful and also dear to Lord's devotees, and he studied the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Suta Maharshi says, now I shall narrate about Lord Krishna, the Pandavas and Maharaja Parikshit. So now he is coming to the crux of the matter, to narrate about Lord Krishna. So to narrate about Lord Krishna, this Parikshit Maharaj and Pandavas, their history is inevitable. Why? Because they were always so attached to Krishna. And Krishna showed special mercy. Krishna was specially benevolent to the Pandavas and their mother and their whole family, because they were all so completely surrendered to Krishna. And he goes on to explain that at the end of the Kurukshetra war, Duryodhana is lying waiting to die, because he has been beaten so badly by Bhima, and because he was cursed that he would be begging for his death. He would have to beg Bhima 7 times that please give me death. To that extent, Bhima will make him helpless. So Duryodhana is lying like that, and this Ashwathama, the survivor in the Kaurava side, he is from a great lineage in the sense that he is a son of a Brahmana and none less than Dronacharya, very illustrious Brahmana. So he is Dronacharya's son. But because of his Dussanga, just imagine how Dussanga affects. What is the effect of Dussanga we find in Ashwathama? That he will go and tell Duryodhana that, I will take revenge. I will take revenge. And then he will come to the camp of the Pandavas, the war camp, after dark. He will come in the night and he will kill 5 sons of Draupadi, who were all young boys, not yet men. They were unarmed, sleeping in their tent in the night. Ashwathama went and killed 5 of them, mistaking them to be Pandavas. And then he will go with lot of chest thumping back to Duryodhana and he will tell him that I have killed them all in their sleep. And such an adharmi Duryodhana will totally disapprove of this. He will tell Ashwathama that what you have done is absolutely heinous. For Duryodhana to say that this is heinous act you have committed, just imagine. Duryodhana himself is like adharma personified, and he is telling Ashwathama, what you did, even I cannot accept. This is called more loyal than the king, So Ashwathama does that. And then Draupadi comes to know about it. And she is so distressed. She is lamenting pitifully having lost 5 young sons. He is lamenting, she is lamenting pitifully, and Arjuna with so much of rage, but because he has also lost his sons, he is pacifying Draupadi. And while getting ready with his weapons and wearing his armor, he will tell Draupadi that I will bring the head of that Brahmana and present it in front of you. And after burning the bodies of our sons, you will take bath standing on his head. He'll say like that. And he will take his weapons, he will mount his chariot, and he will go with Krishna. So Ashwatthama, now he has done something very, very bad, and he knows that Arjuna will chase him, and he knows that Arjuna is a better warrior. He knows that his father has taught Arjuna things that he has not even taught Ashwatthama. So Ashwatthama knows that Arjuna is one step ahead of him. So Ashwatthama will flee, in his chariot, and his horses are looking very scared because they know that somebody is giving chase from behind. So Ashwatthama becomes so fearful for his life, he will immediately release the Brahmastra. He'll immediately do Achaman and he will release the Brahmastra. And fortunately or unfortunately, Ashwatthama did not know how to recall the Brahmastra. He only knew how to launch it. And the Brahmastra's light, the glaring effulgence is spreading in all directions. So Arjuna knows that there is a huge danger. So he is praying to Krishna. Krishna Krishna Mahabhago Mahabaho Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvam Eko Dahyamananam Apavargosi Samsmrite. Arjuna said, "Oh my Lord Sri Krishna, you are the almighty personality of Godhead. There is no limit to your different energies. Therefore, only you are competent to instill fearlessness. Bhaktanam Abhayankara. You are the only one who can make your devotees abhaya. Instill fearlessness in the hearts of your devotees. Everyone in the flames of material desires, miseries, can find the path of liberation in you only. Apavargosi samsmrite." And then he is further glorifying Krishna, saying that, "Hey Krishna, you are the Adi Purusha, you are the Ishvara, and you are transcendental to matter and always situated in eternal bliss, eternal knowledge, and you are the executor of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And though you are beyond material energy, you will do all these things for the good of the Baddhatmas. And you come as avatar to remove the burden of the world and to help your exclusive devotees who don't know anything other than you, who have taken shelter of you." By glorifying Krishna like this, then he will put up very humbly this question, that this very, very fearful looking effulgence is scaring me. I don't understand what is happening. And then Lord Krishna will tell Arjuna, this is the act of Ashwatthama. He has released the Brahmastra because he is fearing for his life and he does not know how to recall the Brahmastra. And so the only solution for this is that you have to release your Brahmastra, because only one Brahmastra can counteract the other. And then when two Brahmastras were launched, all the three worlds started to glow like as if in fire, because there was so much of heat emanated by these two Brahmastras. So Lord Krishna will tell Arjuna, now you retract your Brahmastra and retract the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama also. So accordingly, Arjuna with his, because as I said, Arjuna is a better warrior than Ashwatthama, he also knew how to take back, retrieve the Brahmastra. So that way he will retract both the Brahmastras. And then angrily Arjuna will, he will arrest Ashwatthama, he will tie him up in ropes like an animal, and he will take him to the military camp. At that time, Lord Krishna will say, you should not show any mercy to this Brahma Bandhu because he killed innocent boys who were sleeping. Krishna will tell, this fellow is a Brahma Bandhu. He is not a Brahmana, first of all, And he has killed innocent boys. They were not even armed, they were not even men yet. And they were sleeping and he killed them. And Krishna says, what is Dharma Yuddha? Krishna says, Mattam Pramattam Unmattam Suptam Balam Striyam Jadam Prapannam Virartham Bhitam Naripum Hanti Dharmavit. He says, somebody who is Mattam Pramattam Unmattam, careless, intoxicated, insane, Suptam Balam Striyam Jadam. That means one who is asleep, one who is a Balam, one who is a boy, Striyam, woman, Jadam, foolish, Prapannam, Viratham, Bhitam, one who is surrendered, one who is Viratham, one who has lost his chariot, one who is Bhitam, one who is scared. Naripum Hanti Dharmavit. If you know Dharma, you should not kill these people. And this man is a cruel and a wretched person. He is maintaining his existence at the cost of other people's lives. So he deserves to be killed. He deserves only death. Because for his own well-being, he should be killed. Why? Because if he continues to live, he is going to do worse things. And he also tells Arjuna, you have promised Draupadi, what did you promise her? You will bring the Brahmana's head. And he has killed your family members. He has dissatisfied his own master, Duryodhana. Even Duryodhana is not happy with him. And he has actually burnt all the reputation of Dronacharya's family. So Krishna says, kill him immediately. Don't let him live. But Arjuna is such a great personality and is a surrendered devotee to Krishna. So Arjuna will say, no, we are not going to kill him. Let us take him to Draupadi. Let her have her vengeance as she pleases. So they will bring Ashwatthama back and they will bring him to the camp and put him in front of Draupadi. And at that time, Draupadi's reaction is the most astonishing. She could not tolerate seeing Ashwatthama bound by ropes. So she will say, release him, she will say. He is a Brahmana. He is our guru. A Brahmana is considered to be guru of the society. And she says it is not dharma for us to do like this to him. And she says that we have an obligation to our guru. And this fellow, actually, he should be considered as a representative of his father. So we have to have that, mercy in our hearts. And because he belongs to the Brahmanas community, we should not insult, we should not cause pain for him. And then something else Draupadi will say. He will say, let Dronacharya's wife not go through what I am going through. Let her not lament like how I am lamenting the death of my sons. Don't make Dronacharya's wife cry and lament like me. And she says that if the kings, they will give order to offend Brahmana, then that royal family will burn in fire, she says. This is Draupadi's characteristics, There are 6 characteristics Yudhishthira will say when Draupadi speaks, he will say that she is got dharmyam, religiosity, nyayam, justice, sakarunam, merciful, nirvyalikam, which means without duplicity, and samam, equality, and mahat, glorious. So 6 qualities Draupadi is exhibiting here by arguing why Ashwathama should not be punished, should not be killed. Although she was lamenting, we all know Draupadi's history, how much she was lamenting through her life, and what these Kauravas have already done to her. It is not as if this is the first time Draupadi is going through this. Even when in the assembly of Kurus, she was insulted by Duryodhana and Dushasana, and at that time also this Brahmabandhu was sitting there and enjoying the whole scene. So just imagine how much Draupadi went through, and still her culture, her culture is shining through here in the dealing with Ashwathama, because she realizes that although this Brahmana's son has committed the most abominable action, still she is showing how a cultured woman should behave. This is 2 contrast personality studies we can see here. One is actually of a high birth, and he has had good education. He has studied Veda Vedanta, he has also studied Dhanurvidya, everything he has done. But because of so much of association with ill-minded people, he became more ill-minded than them. Duryodhana is probably the most adharmic person we can see in the Itihasas. And that for that Duryodhana to say that what you have done is very, very banal, what you have done is very, very cheap. So just imagine the grievousness of what Ashwathama has done, and what grief he has brought to Draupadi and all the others. And still she is so glorious, Draupadi, as a mother, as a Kulastri. She is so glorious that she will tell, don't kill him. And at that time, Krishna, Arjuna, Satyaki, Nakula, Sahadeva, and the ladies and everybody will agree with Draupadi, and they will say, yes, she is right. Only Bhima will say no. Only Bhima will disagree, because we all know Bhima's mood. He is not one given to forgiveness like the other Pandavas. Then Krishna will speak to Arjuna. Krishna will say that this Brahmabandhu is not to be killed, but if he is an aggressor, he must be killed. Okay? He is Brahmabandhu, so he should not be killed, but now he has committed an aggression that requires a punishment by killing, you should do it. And secondly, you have given your word to Draupadi, and now at least to satisfy me and Bhima, you should kill. So very surprisingly, Krishna takes the side of Bhima in this whole argument. Whereas Yudhishthira, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva, Satyaki and all the other ladies assembled, they will all say, let him go. Let him go. But Krishna will agree with Bhima and he will say that no, kill him. So what are the reasons, Krishna gives how what Ashwatthama has done and why it requires this punishment. So he is only a Brahmabandhu, Krishna says. That means born to a Brahmana, that's all. That means you are actually some bandha you have, but you are by quality, by nature, you are not a Brahmana. And what have you done? He has killed boys who were sleeping. He violated all the rules of a Dharma Yuddha by attacking in the night, by attacking when they were sleeping, by attacking when they were not with weapons, not ready for war. And they were boys. They were not even battle ready men. So these things are all punishable. And he is maintaining his life at the cost of others' lives. Krishna says that this Ashwatthama is so fallen a person that he is maintaining his life at the cost of other people's lives. And for his well-being, he is ready to kill anybody and everybody. And one more reason Krishna gives to Arjuna, because you promised to Draupadi. And Arjuna is very well known for his promises, So you promised Draupadi that I will bring his head. And this man has acted like an assassin. It is not like a warrior. His act is not at all like a warrior. He acted like an assassin, a hired killer. That's what he has acted as. And by doing it, did he satisfy his master Duryodhana? No. So he could not satisfy his master also. So these are all the reasons by which you should kill Ashwatthama. And what are Draupadi's reasons? She will say, you release the Brahmana because it is only dharma. And on Nyaya, she says, because he is son of your Guru. The other quality that she showed, Karuna, she said that, show some mercy to Kripi, that is Drona's wife, that let her not cry like me. And Nirvyalikam, she was completely transparent. She says, let us not cause any grief to a respectable and worshipable family like Dronacharya's. And Samam, she will say, let Kripi not cry like me. And Mahat, the sixth quality that Yudhishthira speaks about is, if we do any offense to the Brahmanas, that will actually burn our family down. So these are the arguments for and against punishing Ashwatthama. And now the ball is in Arjuna's court. Should he kill or not kill? Because Krishna is telling him kill, but Krishna is also giving Arjuna a hint what can be done. So now Arjuna is a very, very intelligent personality. So he understands Krishna's orders. So what he does, he will sever all the hair from Ashwatthama's head. And Ashwatthama had a mani, a stone that was on his forehead. So he will shave off Ashwatthama's head and he will take off that mani. And that way Ashwatthama will lose all his luster, all his Brahmanical luster is lost. As soon as he killed, he already lost all his Brahmanical tejas, and now he lost his strength also, because that mani, that was what was giving him all the strength in battle, that also is lost by him. And then he is unbound and they tell him, you go, don't show your face ever again. So as far as the Brahmana is concerned, it is said, Dharma Shastras say that a Brahmana, whatever he commits, he should not be killed. So instead of killing, he should be shaved, he should be deprived of whatever wealth he has, and he should be driven away from his place of residence. These are considered to be the apt punishments for a Brahmana. So thus Ashwatthama was spared by Arjuna's intelligence and Arjuna's wonderful understanding of dharma is shining forth. Draupadi's understanding of dharma is shining forth. And on the other hand, we are witnessing the adharma of Ashwatthama in killing unarmed boys. So although Ashwatthama is of a higher birth than the Pandavas were all Kshatriyas. Ashwatthama is the son of Drona, Brahmanas. But what is the difference? The difference is that the Pandavas, although they were Kshatriyas, they were completely dependent on Krishna for everything. That is why Arjuna, when he sees that blazing effulgence of the Brahmastra, while glorifying Krishna, he says that you have come as an avatar. You have come as avatar to help people who are depending on you. And Arjuna, in that he says that me and my family, we are exclusively dependent on you. You see. So one may be a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra, but if one is exclusively depending on Krishna, then he will transcend all these levels. On the other hand, one may be a highly qualified Brahmana who is educated in Veda and Vedanta, but all his education is of no use if he is not taking exclusive shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. And here Ashwatthama, not only that he did not take exclusive shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, he was actually completely acting against principles of religion. Although very well knowing the principles of religion, he was blatantly breaking them. And that is why Krishna said that he is a Brahma Bandhu. Brahma Bandhu means one who is born into a Brahmana family only for namesake, but by his attitude, by his qualities, by the things that he does, there is no Brahmanical quality in him. So such people are called Brahma Bandhus. So in Kali Yuga also, what we find is at the most we find some Brahma Bandhus. We cannot find qualified Brahmanas in Kali Yuga. So Ashwatthama is one example of how the Brahmanas deteriorated towards the end of Dwapara Yuga. Another example we find is Shringi, the young Brahmana boy who cursed Parikshit. Although he was very immature in what he did, it was not expected from him as a Brahmana tapasvi. His father was a tapasvi. The boy was also being trained to become a tapasvi. So it was not expected of him. So these are all, we are seeing the Brahmanas deteriorating. And as Kali Yuga begins, the deterioration becomes complete. So this is how Ashwatthama was punished and let off at the same time by Arjuna, by the advice of Krishna, by the wonderful exposition of Dharma by Draupadi, and this is how this chapter gets concluded, the 7th chapter of the first canto entitled The Son of Drona Punished. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Granth Raj ki jai.